Hey there, and welcome to this first video in the series on anxiety and how you can tackle it. Throughout this series you're going to learn exactly what anxiety is, what causes it, and a brand new way of beating it. Before we get stuck into the meat of the content though, I just want to talk about how this series is going to work. As you know, this series is split into 4 parts. Now I know you might wish you could jump ahead and get through all the videos in one go, but there is a very good reason for doing it like this. You see, studies have shown that breaking content up into chunks makes it much easier to learn and remember, and it's also important to give your unconscious mind time to analyze what is being talked about. This is why I've spread this course over 4 whole days. As we go through this course, I'm going to be very possibly turning what you think about anxiety completely on its head. So I would ask that you go into these videos, especially the last 2, with an open mind. Once you've finished watching these videos, you can of course go back to your old beliefs of anxiety if you wish, but you must remember that following your old beliefs will result in you staying in the same place that you're in now. And as you're watching this, I'm going to take a stab in the dark and guess that this is not a place that you want to stay in. I also ask that you be patient if you already know a lot about anxiety, as I'm going to be starting with the very basics, the fundamentals if you will, because I have no idea how much you already know, and it's vital that in order to beat anxiety, you first must know anxiety. So please bear with me through the first few videos if this all seems like old hat for you, but I promise as you get into the middle of the course, we'll be talking about things you haven't heard before. New lines of thought in anxiety study and new scientific research that's opened the door in anxiety treatments forever. If you feel you've tried everything to treat anxiety before and nothing seems to have worked, it's time to let the new science have a crack, and just maybe it could hold all of the answers for you. On that note then, it's time for you to grab a pen and paper, turn off your phone, close down Facebook, and we can get cracking on the first video on the road to your anxiety recovery. This video then is on the fundamentals of fear itself. In this video you're going to learn what fear is and where it comes from, and what the benefit of fear is. I'm sure you have a very good idea of what fear is already, but if we're going to understand anxiety, we first need to understand fear, the fear response, and where it comes from. And to do that, we need to go back, way back to one of your earliest ancestors. And here he is, one of your first human ancestors. His name is Sylvester. Yes, I know it's a strange name for a caveman, but there you go. Anyway, Sylvester has a tough life. He has to hunt to provide food for his family and also protect his family and himself from animals that might want to eat him. One day, Sylvester hears a rustling in the bushes and footsteps approaching him. He now has only 3 real choices. The first is to ignore them. The second is to run away, and the third is to prepare to fight whatever comes out. Now you and I, and even Sylvester, have no idea what is causing the rustling in the bushes or the approaching footsteps, and it could be that it's completely harmless. It could just be a sheep or something else as equally unlikely to be living in Stone Age jungles. But it could also, of course, be a saber-toothed tiger, which, as I'm sure you know, is not going to be quite as friendly to old Sylvester. This means then that choice number 1 is not an overall good choice for Sylvester, as although it could well be a Jurassic sheep this time, eventually it is going to be something much, much more dangerous. And ignoring it is not really a good option for reaching a ripe old age. This means then that running away from or preparing to fight a possible predator is something that would keep our ancestors alive. This is the very basis of fear. Fear, in its simplest form, is a mechanism for self-preservation where our bodies override our conscious rational mind and force us into either fighting or running away from an enemy. Of course, it doesn't stop there though. Millions of years of evolution have made the fear response more than just a trigger to run or fight. It has added oomph to the process. Now, it's obvious, I think, that he who fights hardest or runs fastest will live the longest and therefore have more children, passing his genes down through history. This is why the body started to pimp the fear response up. It started adding chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol to the mix, which made people stronger and faster. It made the heart pump faster and the lungs breathe quicker to get more oxygen to the cells so they could make more energy. This was the fear response, and it gave almost superhuman strength to anyone that felt their or their family's physical safety was under threat. This is what kept our ancestors alive. Alive long enough to have children and pass on their genes, their level of fear response, and of course the message of what to be afraid of. You see, although the fear response itself is passed down naturally from generation to generation through the genes, the fears themselves are not. Yes, this is actually true. The way your body reacts to fear is hereditary and usually passed down from your ancestors. But what to actually be afraid of, that has to be learned either through observation of your parents and immediate social group, or the good old-fashioned hard knocks way. In fact, there are only two actual fears that we inherit from birth, and they are the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. The fear of falling is of course to aid in our development of walking, while the fear of loud noises is why we get startled. Both are to protect us when we're too young to learn. All of the other fears that we have, fear of the dark, fear of thunder, even the fear of snakes, is a learned fear, picked up from somewhere, or more likely someone, in our formative years. Sylvester would have learned these things too. He would have learned quickly from his social group that rustlings in the jungle could be dangerous. This would then have triggered his fear response, and his body would have gone into action, pumping up his strength and energy, ready to fight or run away from whatever danger emerged. We still have these fears today. We have learned that threats to our physical safety are not good, and if someone or something does threaten the safety of us or our families, we too will get the same fear response that Sylvester got. We too will get primed, ready for the fight or flight that we might need to protect our lives or the lives of our loved ones. This is all very well and good, but where does that leave us with anxiety? Well, I'm glad you asked. Unfortunately, you will have to wait until tomorrow's video to see exactly how anxiety is related to this fear response, and we will go through that tomorrow. So take care, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.